Hello and welcome, stargazers. APM here, your intrepid star guide, and welcome to the Outlaw Astrology podcast. I am thrilled that you're joining me today as we dive deep into one of the most significant astrological shifts of our time, Pluto's journey through Aquarius. Now, this transit is going to shake things up in ways we've never seen before, although technically that's not true, but I cannot resist the urge towards hyperbole, star people. That's my Gemini rising with Mercury and Aquarius in my 9th house talking. So I can't wait to share all the cosmic insights with you, but before we begin our cosmic exploration, just a quick reminder to share, subscribe, leave a review, give us 5 stars so others can find us wherever you listen to podcasts. We have a wonderful newsletter called The Daily Stargazer. That link is in the show notes. You can find us on Instagram at The Outlaw Astrology, on YouTube at Outlaw Astrology, and Pinterest at Outlaw Astrology. And eventually you will find us at Blue Sky at Outlaw Astrology as well. And all those notes will be located in the show. All those links are located in the show notes. So now let's venture into the transformative world of Pluto in Aquarius. Onward. Alrighty, so let's start by understanding the players. And let's start by getting to know our cosmic actors. So let's talk about Pluto, the planet of transformation, death and rebirth. And it has always been associated with power, and I would also add autonomy and agency. It is the shot caller and the guide of the fixed water sign Scorpio, and it also is most at home in the 8th house. So the 8th house deals with the depths of our psyche, shared resources, and profound transformation, which involves also feelings of loss, feelings of grief, because transformation can be uncomfortable, and in order to transform, sometimes we have to give up something. That means sacrifice something that we may not be entirely ready to let go of. And next we have Aquarius. And so Aquarius is a fixed air sign, and it is the revolutionary humanitarian of the zodiac. It is shot called and guided by Uranus, and this is a ice giant, and it is located closer to the Kuiper belt or the Kuiper belt than the inner planets would be. So it's on the other side of Jupiter, and right behind Saturn, with Chiron in betwixt. And so it's an ice giant. It turns on its axis, on its side, as how most astronomers would tell you, and its rings, and it has at least 5 or 6, go up and over rather than round. So it even looks like a revolutionary rebel from space. Now, Uranus is one of the planets that no one saw until about the 17th century, we guess, because that is when telescopes were invented, and it wasn't discovered officially until 1781. Okay, so that's some of the Uranus noise that I want to share. So, as I was saying, Aquarius is a fixed air sign. It represents innovation, collective consciousness, and radical change. And so Aquarius energy is about breaking free from outdated norms, systems, the status quo, and creating new paradigms that are of benefit to everyone. It is a transpersonal sign, by the way, which is why it's everyone and not just ourselves. Okay? Unless it is a personal planet. Alrighty? So Uranus is a shaper. All of the outer planets, that includes Jupiter, all the way out to Eris, which is located in the same asteroid belt as Pluto, these are all shapers, meaning that they shape consciousness. They shift it, they shape it. So when they come into contact with a personal planet, by which I mean our star, the Sun, the Moon, Mercury, Venus, and Mars, they shape the expression of those inner planets, not the other way around. Okay? And so the message of Aquarius is power to the people. Okay? So we're looking at a power shift. We're also looking at a power change. And Pluto in Capricorn, I wouldn't say it's the most comfortable fit, but it's not uncomfortable. I would say Pluto in Capricorn is peregrine, the same way, or peregrine, the same way that Pluto in Aquarius is, which means it's a wild card. It can go any way. We have historical precedent that says how Pluto was when it was in Aquarius, which is back during the time of the 18th century, when the American and French revolutions were going on. And so that is the historical precedent we tend to look at when we wonder how it might go. Now, history does not repeat. It rhymes, meaning that experiences may code as similar, but it doesn't mean they're going to be exact. And that's the same thing with Pluto in Capricorn. So when Pluto was in Capricorn, and it was there until, I believe, up until about last year, where in November it finally went into Aquarius to stay, because it jumped back and forth between Aquarius and Capricorn because it went retrograde. So that meant we had a time to pause and to reassess our experiences collectively with power, and to allow those questions we had within us to allow change to occur. So at that point, when Pluto was in Capricorn, we were witnessing power concentrated in traditional structures and institutions. And so some of those structures, some of those things, which 2020 was a great example of, it made us far more aware of institutional shortfalls, fallacies, problems that it was more comfortable for us all to ignore. Some of us didn't have as much of the ability to ignore what was going on as others were. But now we're all pretty much on the same page. Whether or not we are responding to what's going on, everybody can see it now. Okay, there is oppression. Okay, these systems have a lot of gaps, and they were never created to fill all the gaps. They're always created with the intention of being an overarching system that would provide support. And then the rest of us in these smaller systems that interlay with this overarching system, which are by, I mean, patriarchy and oppression, I mean, patriarchy, I mean, capitalism. Those are overarching ideologies, and most of us did not have the time or the inclination to reassess them, and they got reassessed for a long time before Pluto made its first ingress into Aquarius and then popped back out to be in Capricorn to give us a chance to reassess, because Pluto had gone retrograde, and then popped back permanently for us to have the experiences. So we're looking at power. The message for Pluto in a Capricorn was power for the few, meaning that power for the few meant the people who have that power believe they're entitled to have it. Why? Because they're better at it. They know what they're doing. I mean, nobody knows what they're doing. I don't believe anybody anywhere knows what we're doing. We're just making it up as we all go along. But the narrative is the power is in the hands of the few, because these are the capable ones. These are the determined, the focused, the ambitious, the driven. These are the ones we should trust. And Pluto in Capricorn says and said, are you sure? Are you sure this is the way it has to be? Are you sure this system is the only way, that this is the tradition and we must continue on this course? And also, authoritarianism is also a very Pluto in Capricorn thing. The focus on tradition is a Capricorn thing. When Pluto is there, Pluto is the destroyer, the bone collector, those systems collapse on themselves. Pluto is implosive, not explosive. So that means things are going to collapse. Things that we trusted, believed in, and felt were there to support us and keep us safe no longer can be counted on. Enter Pluto into Aquarius. And so we're now getting some of that forward momentum. So we're moving more into, it's not just rebellion, I would say. It's more about revolution with a purpose. We're looking at massive technological advances. We're looking at AI suddenly being everywhere. Decentralized systems gaining momentum because privatization puts all resources in the hands of the few. And it's not possible for those people to be able to anticipate or understand the needs of the many. It's just not possible. And also focus on communities coming together to create meaningful change, because change does not happen magically on its own. People have to advance together to create those changes and not wait for a figure, a mythical figure, a magical figure to appear to make that change happen. Okay, so that's Pluto and Aquarius. So imagine the internet revolution of the 90s amplified tenfold. Suddenly you had to write a letter and you had to wait for it to go through the post. And those of you who don't remember that, wow, did you really miss out? No, I'm joking. You didn't miss out. I mean, now you can just send an email. It was like that quickly. All of a sudden there was computers were there, and suddenly internet, then emails, and next thing you know, we're on the interwebs together. One of the downsides, however, about Aquarian energy is that it can be isolating. It can be cooler. It can be more aloof. It doesn't necessarily provide warmth. But the rebels, the outcasts, during this time are more likely to find each other, but you can still feel isolated even in a community. So that's one of the challenges of Aquarian energy. Now, if we're going to talk about personal transformation, let's talk about what this means for us all personally. It depends on our rising signs. Pluto goes to different areas of life. So if you've got Pluto in your first house, in Aquarius, your identity and how you see yourself is totally going to get imploded, and you're going to be starting from a totally different paradigm. So it's yourself that's going to get changed. The narrative you tell about yourself is being rewritten, is being innovated, is being exploded, because Uranus is involved in this. And that means that Pluto in Capricorn was looking to Saturn for how to behave, how to be. Saturn is in Pisces now as of this recording, and this is a re-record, by the way. And so it's currently in Pisces. Previously, it was in Aquarius. And so very progressive energy, very move it forward. Let's get it going. Power to the people. Everybody deserves a hand in the power, not just a few. Everybody deserves to thrive, not just a few. How can we make this happen? How can we come together as a community, as a movement? And then we saw all that 2020 stuff and COVID and all that stuff. And then we started seeing Uranus entering into Taurus. Now, Uranus in Taurus is the shot caller and the guiding force for this Pluto in Aquarius energy. And what that basically means is that our values are going to shift. How we look at the environment, our relationship to that environment is going to shift. We're going to be very stubborn. Depending on where that Uranus is hanging out in your chart, we're going to be very stubborn. We're going to be very set in our ways. And that doesn't make change easy, but it also makes it more uncomfortable when we fight it. And so this is not a comfortable energy, because Aquarius and Taurus elementally are squaring each other. So this transformation might feel more uncomfortable or painful for us personally and collectively. So when we're looking at Pluto in the first house, once again, it's about the self. The identity is going to shift, it's going to change, it's going to expand, But first it's going to get blown to bits. It's not going to feel comfortable. Because when you identify with yourself as a certain way, we can get attached to that narrative. Now, if we're looking at Pluto and Aquarius in the second house, we are looking at our resources, our values are going to be changing. And Aquarius is about innovation and inventiveness, but it's also about humanitarianism. It can't be just all about us. What about those people whose voices can't be heard or are not being heard? It's also being a social critic and a personal critic. In the first house, we would be critiquing ourselves. In the second house, we're critiquing ourselves as well, but it's our values, our resources. What do we have? How can we contribute? In the third house, it's about ideas and how we communicate. We're going to want to share our ideas, and they're probably going to be very progressive ideas, and to some people way out there, especially if we're going to be sharing them with people that live close to us or our brothers and sisters and people of that nature, because those are the themes of that house, in addition to being about intellect and about how we communicate. So we may not communicate our ideas in the most warm way, but they will be pretty damned interesting. The fourth house, Pluto going into the fourth house, is your roots, your lineage, your relationship to your lineage, to your roots, to your way back people, to your childhood are going to shift. A new narrative will emerge. And we have the ability to have deep psychological change, deep psyche. By the way, psychological comes from the word psyche, which means soul, Greek, by the way. So our soul will be changing. And we will be innovating from there, a new narrative, because it's always about the narrative start, people. It's always a story. In the fifth house, it'll be innovative, speculating. Maybe we'll take more risks when it comes to the stock market, or when it comes to dating, or when it comes, because those are also fifth house themes. When it comes to pleasure, we're probably going to find things pleasurable. They're going to be more off the beaten path than ordinarily. But we want to innovate. We want to break rules. In the sixth house, when it comes to our work colleagues, our work, how we serve, how we contribute. I like the word contribute. How we contribute to society or to the collective. Those are going to be innovative. If we have been known to be 9-to-5ers, we're going to be wondering, is this really the best for me? If we're doing 5 days a week, we're like, is this really the best way for me? Or is this the job that I feel will make the biggest impact or allow me to innovate or allow me to make the world a better place? Am I making the world a better place with what I do as my livelihood? What can I do on the daily to innovate, to change, to do the unexpected? And the seventh, that's the house of the other, open enemies. Pluto there is meeting up with people who are going to be very unique, very inventive, innovative, and this could be inspiring to be surrounded by people who are social critics, who are thinkers, who are humanitarians, who are all about power to the people. But it can be a little ungrounding. So that's something to keep in mind with this particular placement. In the 8th house, Pluto is at home, but however, it's in Aquarius. So when it comes to our relationship with other people's money should be, especially if they have a lot of it, should be dispensed widely so everyone else can have. So this person isn't just soaking up or sucking up all of the resources. In addition to that, how we see grief and death and how we experience those things and how we tell a narrative about those things is changing. We are all experiencing loss and therefore grief at different stages in our life. So pain, loss, and grief are parts of life. And Pluto in Aquarius says, let's change the narrative up a bit. I mean, if we're planning how we're going to go out, how are we going out? What is our relationship to death? What is our relationship to rebirth? What is our relationship to transformation? Let's step back from our social conditioning and the status quo to ask ourselves, do I really believe that? And how can I change that? How can I innovate? How can I be more inventive there? In the ninth house, the worldview, the beliefs are being changed. And there might be going to take classes, maybe writing a book, maybe reading more books, maybe traveling to outside of one's comfort zone and unbeaten path. So if you're usually a homebody, there might be a desire to go out into the world and go to taste foods, to experience cultures that are unlike your experiences, so as to reset your mindset and your attention. Because with Pluto and Aquarius in the ninth house, what we're doing is rewilding our attention. We're rewilding our mindset. So we're going off to read books and topics. So say we're just a sort of person who only interested in science and only science. And all of our books on our bookshelf are only about things that we can prove and quantify. And all of a sudden, we're interested in what would be considered fringe pseudosciences. Maybe we're interested in remote viewing. We're interested in tapping. We're interested in lucid dreaming. We're interested in, energy healing or things of that nature, which is outside of our usual comfort zone. That's the ninth house, Pluto in the ninth house. In the 10th, we are a powerhouse. It's magnetic energy. It is whatever way the career was going, we are now thinking to ourselves, do I want to keep doing this? Is this making an impact? Is this helping people? Is this inventive enough? Am I breaking paradigms? Am I shifting them? What changes can I make here? And it's also, if the MC is involved, I would also say it's time to consider what one's calling is. What one's career is probably going to be reassessed and changed, because it's going to about 2044, Pluto and Aquarius. So that's a long time to make change. But also, what your calling is. Do you have a calling? Do you want to bother with this? Do you want to walk away from this and chart a totally different course off into that untrod path that has a lot of underbrush and overbrush? In the 11th house, friendship, visions, our future dreams, and the community that helps us build those dreams. That's going to change. What do we dream of? What we thought we dreamed of is totally going to be a very different thing if you have Pluto in Aquarius in your 11th house. That means all the transformation, the loss, the grief, the discomfort are all going to be there. So friendships are probably going to end. Especially, if it becomes very obvious that you're moving in different directions. And these changes may not necessarily, they're not going to feel comfortable, and they are going to be slow at first. Why I say this is because Uranus is currently, as of this recording, in Taurus, but is going to be transiting into Gemini, which will make it more easeful, but a bit more of a challenge in a different way, in that Uranus in Gemini is going to make it more scattered, more shape-shifty, so it feels like you have all the ideas, all the information, and it feels great. And there's way too much information, so it's information overload, and that can lead to feeling like you feeling confused, because it feels like you're scattered everywhere, and you don't have any certainty, and you can't pin anything down. Because trine energy, for good or for ill, is comfortable, but it doesn't necessarily mean that change is going to happen, or it's an over-reliance on ideas in the mental realm, and not much with the doing part. Okay, so that's a little too much air energy sometimes, so sometimes it's great, but sometimes it doesn't allow for much innovation, in that we are going to stay where we're comfortable. So that's what trines, for good or for ill, can provide us with. Whereas the Taurus energy makes us want to troubleshoot and find solutions, because discomfort is something we want to resolve. And that makes us more motivated to find answers and to find creative solutions. If we're looking at Pluto and Aquarius in the 12th house, this is the house of hidden traits. It's also the house of retreat. It's a house of spirituality. So spiritual beliefs are probably going to be very critically and very coolly evaluated. Aquarius is an air sign. They're about being impartial and scientific. So it's implying science to spirituality. And those two things are not necessarily mutually exclusive, but they're not as polar opposites as people like them to believe. So where we might experience magical thinking, that Pluto in Aquarius is going to be testing that belief. And where we might be overly cool-headed, that Pluto is going to make us question what we consider to be scientific. And if we over-rely on science and logic and reason, that Pluto in Aquarius in the 12th house is going to have us questioning all of that. We're going to need time to step back. But it's also going to make us aware of the humanitarian in us, the social critic in us. It may make us cast our eye around and think to ourselves about the most marginalized of us, the rebels, the outcasts, the misfits, and turn our eye there and think, how can I contribute? How can I make an impact? It can't be all just about me. Now, a note about Pluto in any sign. Pluto is an outer planet and stays in signs for at least 20 years thereabouts. Which means you're going to be looking at Pluto's house placement first and foremost before you look at the sign. So you look at Pluto in the house, then you look at the sign, the planet that is the guide and the ruler, the shot caller, that would be Uranus, and then you consider Aquarius last, as in third. And that's how you can do the best interpretation. However, if you are of a mind to do it differently, then I say follow your intuition, follow your gut when it tells you, I think we should try it this way. That is just my own personal practice and how I choose to interpret. But feel free to trust your own gut if it tells you differently, okay? So, to get back in, Pluto is not, it doesn't just destroy, it's a transformer. The energy tends to be implosive. It tends to be more inward looking than, say, Uranus energy. And so whatever area of life it touches tends to undergo a profound metamorphosis, and it can leave us stronger and more authentic than before. However, as I've said, it does not necessarily mean this is going to feel comfortable at all. Now, some people might experience very little tumult in their lives, and other people it's going to be nothing but turbulence. And if you need to, take time to ground yourself, whatever activities, whether it be hanging with friends, yoga, meditation, massage, whether it's talking to that wise philosophical friend that you have, whether it's journaling or painting, whatever you do to ground yourself to help you better navigate tumult and turbulence is probably the best advice I can give. Coming from someone who does not tend to give advice. So that's something to absolutely consider. That is what Pluto in Aquarius looks like, and you are invited to meditate on your Pluto in Aquarius position on your chart. So wherever it happens to be, you're perfectly welcome to build an altar to Pluto, to ask it questions, to visualize it as an archetype or make it an avatar. Ask questions of it. Make it personal for you so it's not just an abstraction. And that is it for this week, star people. So what we're going to do is we're going to wrap this up. We're going to wrap up today's cosmic exploration. And here's the cosmic journey. If you want to journey further, you can reflect on where you've been holding on to outdated systems in your life. What parts of your world are ready for revolution or evolution, because Pluto is also a planet of evolution. And don't forget to find us on Pinterest at Outlaw Astrology, Instagram at The Outlaw Astrology, and YouTube at Outlaw Astrology. Thank you very much for listening and taking time out of your day to be present with us. Consider this, that the stars do not tell us what to do. They do not give us doom and gloom and horrible destinies. The choice is ours. Okay? So thank you very much. Peace and astro magic, star people.